Child Trafficking by Catherine, Jennifer, and Kalina.
There is a major issue in our country, child trafficking. Child trafficking, which is another form of human trafficking, is when children are exploited and taken advantage of. This is done by force, threats, violence, and manipulation. The children are used for labor in unsafe and horrid conditions, or for sex. Traffickers will target youth from low-income communities, backgrounds, and runaways. However, most children who are trafficked for labor, such as in agriculture, factories, and domestic servants. When people think of child trafficking, they think of kidnapping. However, manipulation is a big part of child trafficking and trafficking in general. In a study, in less than 10% of child trafficking cases, kidnapping was present. The traffickers will pose as someone friendly and trying to gain the trust of the victim. This makes tricking them into labor and sexual conduct easier. They will offer jobs, money, education, and the promise of a better life and protection. Now let's get into some statistics. Between 15,000 and 50,000 women and children are sex trafficked. 1 out of 6 runaway children become sex trafficked victims. In 2019, the Hotline for Human Trafficking had 11,500 cases. The Cyber Tip Line had 21.7 million cases, and a big portion of those cases involved children. In our state, California had the most trafficking reports in the United States, with 1,334 cases. The second was Texas with 987, and the third was Florida with 738 cases in 2020. 71% of trafficked people are women and girls. 28% are men and boys. It is estimated that 10 million trafficked victims are under the age of 18.
Child trafficking is caused by many factors such as poverty, lack of education, no birth records, humanitarian disasters, and illegal adoptions. Poverty is the most common cause of child trafficking. Many poor families have no choice but to abandon their children and leave them on the streets. Or in some cases, some parents are tricked into stories from traffickers about how they can help support and find education for their children. Young children don't have the skills to support themselves when they are vulnerable. The most common issue that leads to children being trafficked is illiteracy. Most children can't read anything around them and have no idea where they are or who their captors are. Because of this, children are having to do manual labor as their job is to take care of the captors or their families. During the periods of the humanitarian disasters, trafficking is very common because children can get lost or become orphans for losing loved ones. Child trafficking tends to increase whether there's a hurricane, pandemic, or any disruption at any time or place. In other countries, child traffickers can take any opportunity to find, transport, and sell children. This itself already violates human rights. How vulnerable are children? Both girls and boys can be very vulnerable to child trafficking. However, girls are more targeted and must deal with long effects of gender inequality and gender-based violence. In the article SaveTheChildren.org, girls are 2 times likely to be reported as trafficking victims. Girls tend to be trafficked for forced marriage or sexual slavery. And there is about 120 million girls worldwide that have experienced sexual exploitation. What are the effects of child trafficking? Child trafficking and exploitation has serious social, psychological effects. Child traffickers control victims with psychological manipulation. They do this to destroy a child's will to escape. It is accomplished by physical, emotional, and verbal abuse in isolated or violent areas the children are familiar with. They also use video cameras, dogs, and weapons to control and watch children. Even child traffickers use food and water as a way for children to be obedient. This could potentially lead to post-traumatic stress disorder, dissociative adaptation, emotional regulation problems, impaired cognitive functioning, and damaged self-conceptualization. Children who have been victims of trafficking have nightmares, flashbacks, depression, guilt, shame, hopelessness, anxiety, and loss of confidence. Any child who is a victim of sexual or physical abuse are more likely to experience social isolation, substance abuse, and are more likely to commit suicide.
What most people don't know about viewing pornography is that it contributes to child trafficking. When you view pornography, you are indirectly supporting child traffickers and contributing to their purpose. Here's how. It gives trackers psychological control over their victims. Once a photo or video is on the internet, it stays there forever. Traffickers know this and will use this to blackmail their victims into believing they can never get out. It also gives trackers greater financial gain. Traffickers benefit a lot more when they sell photos and videos of their victims in addition to forcing them into prostitution. Finally, pornography is in and of itself a form of sex trafficking. In an interview in every country, many victims explained how they were forced into pornography while being trafficked. Something else that is beneficial to stopping child trafficking is supporting programs. I understand that we are all college students and cannot afford to support, but we can be educated. The first organization I would like to mention is the International Justice Mission. If we play the video, we can see their website a little bit. On their website, we can see what their mission is, which is to protect people in poverty from violence by rescuing victims, etc. And if you go to their work, you can see their different stories of rescue that contains videos and articles of victims who have been rescued. What is cool about IGM is that they also help with the recovery process, so they will provide counseling, housing, etc. for whatever the child needs after they have been rescued. And finally, I also wanted to share with you the Child Rescue Coalition. I'm going to share this short clip of Blake Lively, who is a supporter of this organization and shares a little bit about what this organization does.
Incredible about the Child Rescue Coalition is that they are proactive. They don't wait for these children to speak up. They can identify these pedophiles. They can see the IP address that's trading this child pornography. They don't know, there's no privacy issues, there's no big brothering. They see the IP address of who's trading these files, and they give that to law enforcement. And the trading of these files is a felony, so law enforcement can knock on that person's door and see if that person has access to a child.
That is all for our presentation. We hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.